to another one of our Lead Now conversations on racism. We've welcomed a new year and continued conversations with our Black, Indigenous, and Sisters of Color about racism and creating a more equitable and inclusive member experience for all of our sisters. I am thrilled to welcome this evening Tri Delta Housing Director Caroline Chin Goldwater, who will be with us. Caroline, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me, Karen.
Absolutely. So, for our listeners, Caroline is an alumna of our Gamma Tau chapter at James Madison University. Professionally, Caroline serves as a security cooperation policy analyst for the Defense Security Cooperation Agency with prior experience at the Navy International Program Office. She is also a certified project management professional with an extensive background in strategic planning, policy development, and innovation. I am really glad our listeners get a chance and our viewers get a chance to get to know you tonight, Caroline.
Thanks.
Well, let me thank you, actually. I want to thank you for stepping forward and answering the call from our Leadership Development Committee when they ask you to bring your perspective to Tri Delta's leadership and specifically the Housing Board. What were the things that made you say yes to that opportunity?
Well, I was actually really surprised. I didn't, when I filled out my volunteer application, I thought I was going to be working on a committee. I wasn't expecting this opportunity. But I really wanted to lend my voice. I thought, as an Asian American Pacific Islander, there's a broad spectrum of people included in that. And it depends on whether, which generation you've immigrated from. And I am a Chinese American. And I feel very passionate about that, but I'm also very aware from my family's background as several generations of immigrants that we have been minority communities have differing experiences, and I have different social experiences that I bring to the table. Like I was raised by a single mother. I grew up in a multi-generational household. My dad died of cancer when I was 7. I have differing experiences that I thought were useful to bring to the table to say, we don't necessarily come to Tri Delta all in the same package, and we don't all have that same 4-year experience. I joined Tri Delta as a junior. That was unusual.
Yeah.
But I thought, I came to Tri Delta looking for a lifelong commitment and a lifelong relationship, and I have that. And I'm so thankful for it, but I also know that it's also my responsibility to give back and to contribute. And when I saw the Lead Now plan, I said, it's time to roll up your sleeves and contribute. You've kind of taken a back seat to raise your family, and now it's time to get involved. And I was really excited about the opportunity.
Well, gosh, we are so grateful, that you found us and we found you as you were a junior at James Madison, but also that you had the time and the ability to step forward, right? And the self-sacrifice to do so, right? Leadership in Tri Delta does take quite a commitment and quite a bit of time, and we are very grateful. Very grateful.
I think it was kind of like a happy confluence of one of the positive things out of the pandemic. I felt like, because the biennium started off virtually, I felt like now is a time where I can contribute, and I wasn't so concerned about, can I make this work for my family? And I said, it's so important that no matter what, you're going to make it work, but you need to push yourself. You need to try, and you need to put yourself forward. And I remember when I got the call from Linda, I was just so happy and so excited about it. I remember having this just random conversation with my neighbors about positive things that are coming out of the pandemic, and they were preparing to send their girls off to college. They have twin girls. They're freshmen at the University of Michigan and University of Alabama. And then I was explaining how excited I was about this opportunity to volunteer with Tri Delta. And I got the weirdest response back of, it sounds like you're participating in some strange affirmative action program and you're not prepared and you're not qualified for this extreme leadership position. And I thought to myself, what are you, excuse me? Besides being extremely insulting about my ability, I stopped and I said, no, I am just providing my voice at the table. When we're sitting here having decisions, I am lending a different perspective, and I'm just as qualified. And our screening process is about competencies and
Yeah.
skills, and
Yeah.
I have all of them. Thank you very
Yes.
much. So
Well, first of all, I'm so sorry you had that experience, but second of all, I love the way you answered it, right? Tri Delta does identify leaders based on, slate of competencies. And I'm thrilled that we were able to tap into your expertise at this time. I think we've learned a lot in the pandemic. We've learned a lot about how many things we can accomplish virtually, which actually allows our organization to seek out women with your professional experience to serve on our boards. So we're thrilled to have you. You have a boatload of very impressive professional experience. So as you think through the lens of your professional career, what experiences do you feel you'll be bringing to the table to support and challenge how Tri Delta operates as an organization?
So I think of myself as a change agent and a disruptor. So I always take that perspective of, provide, I want to ask a lot of questions, a lot of context questions. I want to understand why we do things this way. And I love to immerse myself in information and data and see the trends and what's the goal. And I like to, because of my project management background and experience, I break down goals into very small manageable pieces. Everything organizations want to do, we're in it for the marathon, we're not in it for the sprint, but you've got to make it manageable chunks, right, for yourself. So I've really worked hard on being the bridge between big thinkers and detail oriented people, and making sure that they can talk to each other, because they both add a lot to the conversation, but they can talk past each other.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we can develop a plan in a way that we can all feel comfortable moving forward. So I've also worked on strategic plans, writing them, operationalizing them, moving organizations forward from leaders who say, I'm going to leave a mark and I'm going to leave a legacy. And I want to bring a disparate group of people to the table and all come together and stack hands on what is it we want to do. And then I've also had the opportunity to lead once in a generational change mandated by Congress. So, they've told us, and that's an outside threat that said, you're doing great, but we want more. We demand more of you. And so how are you going to respond, and how are you going to rise to the occasion? So I've been on both ends, and it's been useful experience. And I hope that it's helpful, some of that job perspective that I can lend to the table. So.
Well, we've already found it to be helpful. And you're helping Tri Delta, raise our game. And you're helping us elevate the work of the board and Tri Delta's brand, right, through your service. So thank you for that. I want to talk about Lead Now, about our action plan to create a more equitable and inclusive member experience. For sure, Tri Delta's made a lot of progress in this area, but this is an organizational priority. I think we've all sort of looked up in 2020 and said, while well-intentioned, the work hasn't gone far enough, fast enough. So what are your thoughts about that organizational priority through the Lead Now plan?
I think I'm very impressed with the strategic vision that we've set forward for ourselves. We have some lofty goals, and it's now time to take the plan and move and break it down into pieces that we can and build out those committees, build out the work, and make up those objectives that we're looking for, break it down into more manageable parts. I think we have a great way of communicating and holding ourselves accountable. It's just we've set the foundation, and now it's ready to time to hit the ground running.
Yeah, it definitely is. And of course, right, we'll start an enterprise-wide diversity audit here in the next few weeks. And from that audit will come quite a bit of work. So I actually look forward to working with you to analyze that work, break it down, right, and get it done, break it into manageable chunks. We talk about progress, and we talk about measurement. How do you feel about having targets related to Lead Now, and maybe why is that important in helping us accomplish this plan?
Well, I think when you're designing interventions, everyone wants progress overnight, right? Everyone wants to push themselves to that. And that's when you're trying to spread yourself over a lot of different initiatives, that's not necessarily possible. So you've got to figure out, prioritize what you can do, what's manageable, and what are the resources you're going to commit to those activities, and also how can you break down accomplishment to your goal. So you're not going to sprint the whole marathon. You've
Right.
got to figure out what's the pace that you can
Yep.
sustain, and not burn everyone out, but also what are the priorities. And so I think that's important and you have to be able to determine whether or not the resources you've committed are enough, right? And
Right.
maybe you've gone all in on something and you don't see the change that you're looking for, and so you're kind of wondering, well, what can I change, what will I need to do differently? And if you don't have targets for yourself to measure your progress, you're just going to keep hoping, and you're not going to be sure whether or not you did enough.
Right. Right. And then data, right?
My
Um,
friend.
I know you love data, and I love that you love data, right? So we've learned this as you come onto the board and challenge staff and challenge the board, and I love it. That's how we get better. Tell me the role you feel data plays in um, measuring our progress and the accountability piece, right? Data and accountability. How does that
They
serve
go
us?
hand in hand. So
Yeah.
I think you need data to understand where you're starting from. You need a performance baseline. So that diversity-wide audit that you mentioned is crucial, right? Where are we starting from? But then you also need an understanding of what's performance. What does that look like? What are the indicators of progress? Not all of them are going to be quantitative. Some of them are going to be qualitative, but you need to have an understanding of, and you need to have information coming back to analyze, to say, well, okay, am I really doing what I hoped to do? Is that investment um, working out for me? And because we're talking about social science, right? You're not,
Yeah.
it's not, in a mathematical equation, you might isolate a variable and solve it and
Right.
have an exact answer. But when you're dealing with these deeper, more complicated systems, and that's happened to me at work plenty of times, where I think I know the answer. I've designed this perfect intervention, and
Yeah.
then there's second, third, and fourth order effects that I didn't anticipate, that didn't work out the way I thought. Well, I had the best of intentions. I really thought I understood everything, but it's complicated. So then you're looking at, oh, okay, now I've got to move forward. I've got resources that I've committed. What am I going to do next? And that's why data is so critical to inform what happens next. What are those follow-on steps? Do I abandon ship? Do I invest more resources? Do I change my plans? It's so critical.
Well, I agree with you. And I think if we learned anything in 2020, it's how important it is to be able to course correct when needed, to change when needed. I don't want to use the word pivot because I think it was overused along with unprecedented in 2020. Those are words we're like canceling out of our culture, right? Um, but I think it's absolutely important. I want to talk to you a little bit, Caroline, about your experience as a Tri Delta, your collegiate experience, and then your experience as as an alumna. So tell me about your time at James Madison.
So I mentioned that I went through recruitment as a junior. When I went to college, I had no idea what a fraternity or sorority was.
Yeah.
And by the time I figured out what their role was on campus and that I was interested in joining that community, we only do recruitment at James Madison in the fall. So I was prepared, fully prepared to go through recruitment in my sophomore year. But my long-term boyfriend at the time decided that was the perfect time to say, I am not interested in dating you anymore.
No, you
So
did not.
yeah, no. So once I got myself out of my Ben and Jerry's stupor, recruitment ended, or the period to register for recruitment ended. And so I thought that opportunity had passed me. And
Yeah.
so I went and became a part of residence life and became a RA. And then I met someone that summer who was a Tri Delta, and she said, it's unusual, but Tri Delta is really committed to finding lifelong members. So we are one of the organizations that will look at juniors. The other,
Yeah.
NPC groups are not going to talk to you, and they're going to be rude to you, and that will be the end of the conversation. But please try. We would love to have you, welcome you. And the second I went through recruitment, I knew that was home. I knew that was the environment that I needed to be in, and that was the supportive group for me. So, and when I bid Tri Delta, I became a risk manager at the chapter, and then I was working in residence life from the university. So I became a hall director my senior year. And then I graduated from James Madison and immediately became involved with the DC Northern Virginia Alumni chapter and became an officer there. And was an officer for a very long time, actually. And then once I had my family, I took a break. And then when LEADDD came, that was the time I realized I need to recommit to Tri Delta and devote some time and volunteer and throw my hat back in. So
that is, that's just picture perfect from our standpoint. And the opportunities never end in Tri Delta, right? So the beauty is you can step away and do noble things like build a career, have a family, but you're always welcome back, right? And we're thrilled that you found your way back to us at such an important time, I think, in the organization's history. I think we have the opportunity to really step up and demonstrate what it means to be kind alike to all, and beyond being kind, right? Being inclusive, focusing on diversity, focusing on equity, focusing on access, all the important parts and pieces of the ways in which we want to change Tri Delta, right? Change our culture and drive it forward. So I am so thankful to you for spending time with us tonight, and for your continued leadership and service to our sisterhood through Tri Delta Housing and beyond. Before we go, how can our viewers and our listeners find out more about you, and where can they follow you if they'd like to learn more and connect with you?
So I will say that my privacy settings are pretty high because of my work.
Yes.
But I can be found on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And you can also find me on Instagram. I think it's Caroline AUH2O. It's like the chemical symbols for my husband's last name. So we tried to go a little nerdy on that.
Well done. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again for all you do for Tri Delta and for bringing you to leadership, and for being willing to talk to us tonight on this important topic. We appreciate you.
Great, thanks.